All right, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about 8% withdrawal rule. I don't know, suggestion from Dave Ramsey, like absolutely idiotic. I already did an entire video on this, filmed it, had it up on YouTube ready to go, and it got copyright claimed by guess what? Uncle Davey. So what the hell? We're just going to get into it. I don't know what to say. I will link this video in the description so you guys can go check it out, because apparently I can't play any of it and live react to it. So that sucked. Especially after doing all that. So go watch it and see how moronic his advice is. And yeah, it's absolutely mind-boggling. So I'll just summarize the video. Basically, a guy calls in, he's like 30 years old. He's like, hey, Dave, I've got like 120 grand in retirement accounts and investment accounts. Dave is like, oh, great job, awesome. And the guy calling in is like, hey, it sounds like he's like, I kind of want to pause that investing stuff for paying off my house early, which, I mean, maybe if he has like an 8% interest rate, yeah, cool. If he has like a sub 4, I don't get that. But Dave goes on this like rant about, and the guy mentioned that he was like he kind of reached coast fire. And for those that don't know, coast fire is essentially when you get your initial nest egg built up enough to where if you project out the growth over like 30 years, like you're 30, you're going to be 60 and retire, the projected growth of that 125 grand is going to be able to grow into kind of your target retirement amount, right? So Dave kind of goes on this like rant, just bashing the Trinity study, saying the 4% rule is absolute trash, basically saying that his own employees are being essentially stupid and putting bad information out there, because I guess one of his employees wrote something about maybe the 4% rule should be the 3% rule, and I guess maybe their guidelines previously were 4 to 5%. I don't know. So he goes on this rant, and then he's like, no, you can take out 8% safely in retirement, which is absolutely not true. And we're gonna go over that real quick. So here we got the first simulations. This is CFireSim. It's a pretty cool tool for just running different sequence of returns risk thresholds within retirement. And if I didn't say that already, I don't know. This is the second time recording this, but sequence of return risk absolutely just destroys his little like, oh, you can take out 8%, it's fine. Because like if you take out 8%, but then the market crashes like 50%, and you have to take out the same $80,000 on a $1 million portfolio, that's now a 16% withdrawal rate, right? That's horrible. So, yeah, here we go. 8% withdrawal rate. We got 80,000 out of a $1 million portfolio. You get a 38.21% success rate. So basically, you're most likely going to fail. Worse than a coin flip. Like really, really, really crappy odds. You see, average ending portfolio is 523,000. Yeah, the highest. Well, and here's the thing is, if you're going in and you just start withdrawing, unless you're just doing it on a static, like no matter what, this year you're retiring, which some people are, you're probably gonna have a little bit of flexibility potentially to work longer if you're in a down market or an up market. Like if you're retiring into the peak of a bull market, that's like really bad timing, at least for sequence of returns risk. And that's usually when most of these failure cases are gonna happen within the 8% withdrawal rate, and then also the Trinity study 4% withdrawal rate. So we got $80,000 a year coming out, average ending portfolio of 523,000, but a very, very high failure rate. So low success rate, high failure rate. We go over to the 4% rule. So this is the same exact thing modeled out, and this is all based off of a 100% stock portfolio. So we go over to the 4% rule, and we can see that the standard withdrawal is 40,000, and all this is going to be inflation adjusted over time. Your average ending portfolio is 3.15 million. Your highest is 10 million. And so I will give him this, is that like, if you just blindly stick to the 4% rule and the market keeps its historical trends, most likely you're going to have a much larger portfolio, right, at the end, unless you hit those 4% of scenarios. Success rate on this one is 95.93%, right? But you can always spend more, right? Like if your portfolio goes from $1 million to $6 million or whatever, and you're keeping your core expenses low, well, you can always splurge on some stuff and spend more and increase your spending. It's a lot harder to plan on an 8% rule, having $80,000 a year off $1 million portfolio, and then your portfolio goes down, and then your spending's kind of pegged in, and you're living extremely tight. So, and then there's a third one that I've been looking at, and I think it's kind of like, I personally might do something like this whenever I get to retirement way down the road. But this is a bit different. So this is a dynamic withdrawal rate, and so this is doing 5% per year, but it resets every single year, right? So it's going to increase as your portfolio increases, and it's going to decrease if you get into a bear market or a market downturn. And the interesting thing with this is, well, first, the important thing to consider with this is, what are your core spending, your absolutely necessary spending. And I'm hoping that by the time I get into retirement, a lot of my larger fixed expenses drop off, like mortgages and whatnot. So my core spending will hopefully be a little bit lower. So for this $1 million portfolio, we've got a spending threshold or limit is at a minimum, we'll spend $25,000 a year at a minimum. And that is just to cover core expenses, theoretical core expenses in a downturn or a bad stock market period. On average, though, we can see that our spending increased throughout retirement, 52,000 to 54,000 to 65,000 to 71 to 73, right? And that's because your portfolio continues to grow, and you're continuing to take 5% out of whatever the value of the portfolio is. 100% success rate, but also, you've got to actually tighten down and be able to live off of that core expense amount. In this scenario, it's $25,000. You have to be able to do that in retirement. Average ending portfolio is now 1.5 million instead of 3 or whatever in the 3.1 in the 4% rule, and the highest is 3.5 million. Median is 1.4. So doing something like this, if you can cut back your spending in retirement in bad market scenarios, that's really probably, I think, the most powerful tool in having a successful retirement long term for not running out of capital, right? If you have the ability to cut your spending from, say, 40,000 to 25,000 or whatever it is, in the case of, the market downturn and it just not being a good time to sell out of equities, that's going to help you a lot. So just being a little bit thoughtful about that and really focusing on your spending and your budget and knowing exactly what your core expenses are, how much you can cut back if you really need to. That's going to be super, super important in scenarios like these. So, I don't know what the heck Dave is thinking. I really don't. I wish I could have posted the video with me actually live reacting to every part of the segment, but geez, it doesn't make any sense because his entire brand, everything that he is built around is built very risk adverse, right? It's don't have credit cards, pay cash for everything, right? Pay off your house, and it's just very, very risk averse. So I'm super shocked that he is taking basically the riskiest possible scenario, and suggesting it for retirement. If anything, I would thought he would have been 3% rule because that way you're safe. And you can always up your spending if you need to, but, you're not going to be living on the street when you're in retirement. But I don't know. I mean, maybe he likes camping or something. It's crazy, irresponsible, horrible advice. And personally, I would never listen, on the financial front of spending, budgeting, getting yourself out of debt. I think he's great. He's helped so many people. On investing and retirement planning, I would not listen to him personally. But then again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is just for entertainment purposes only, going through some scenarios and whatnot. So I hope you guys have a great day. Yeah, I don't know. Be skeptical with what you hear out there, because there's a lot of crazy people suggesting crazy things. So we'll see you in the next one.